So keeping in with the theme of CBS Evening News now being a Zionist rag and completely captured state media, our new boy, the man running CBS News, the Zionist Jew convert who got a double circumcision, did an interview on Pete Hegseth where he asked questions, got no answers, just praise.
Taking a turn here now, when President Trump was asked exactly who would be running the country of Venezuela temporarily, he referred to the officials standing there behind him at the podium. And one of those officials joins us now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us. I want to begin tonight with the soldiers and sailors involved in this. We're very happy. Thank you again. We are very happy to hear that there was no loss of American life in this mission. And I understand you're just back from Joint Base Andrews, where you met with some of the team members involved in all of this. How are they doing? And you were watching this unfold. What did you see?
I saw the best of America. I saw men and women dedicating their lives to defending our country and to accomplishing that mission. And I just landed here at Joint Base Andrews, had a chance to meet a lot of them firsthand who were involved.
Chills.
Walked through the TikTok of what can only be described as the most sophisticated, most complicated, most successful joint special operations raid of all time. I mean, nothing of this size scope when you actually unpack what was done kinetically and non-kinetically, that many people, that many moving parts, that consequential, and they got the job done. And despite any obstacles in front of them, it is incredible to be able to serve such courageous, brave, and skilled Americans. We do right
Mr.
by
Secretary.
them, and President Trump did. He gave them a clear mission, and they finished it.
Well, Mr. Secretary, I'd love to talk about the mission now because there are questions about what happens next in Venezuela. The president said today that the U.S. is going to be running the country. What does that look like? Does that mean we're going to see Americans on the corners of Venezuela, in the government of Venezuela? Are you prepared to have troops on the ground in Venezuela?
Well, it means we set the terms. President Trump sets the terms.
So this is going to play into what I want to talk about next, which is I think I have a better play on what actually happened in Caracas that day and what's happening now with Maduro. I think that Donald Trump saying that we will be calling the shots, we'll be running Venezuela, and that we could have troops on the ground, I think all of those were gaffes. I think those were things, once again, that were said to him privately that he said publicly only because he's stupid. I think all of that was meant to be, like that was stuff other people were pitching him to get him behind the operation. Likely Marco Rubio, you know?
And ultimately, he'll decide what the iterations are of that. But it means the drugs stop flowing. It means the oil that was taken from us is returned ultimately, and that criminals are not sent to the United States. It means that foreign countries don't have a lodgment inside our hemisphere. So ultimately, we're going to control what happens next because of this brave decision. President Trump has shown American leadership, and he'll be able to dictate where we go next.
So, Mr. Secretary, then
No answer to the question, by the way. Though, of course, this is a puff piece, right? It's not actually meant to be an interview.
By your words there, I imagine you are prepared for a full-scale U.S. intervention to stabilize the country of Venezuela if asked for by the president. If that comes to pass, will you ask Congress for approval? Do you believe legally you need to ask Congress for approval?
Well, we're postured, and the president said the blockade continues, no oil going in and out, no drug boats allowed to traffic in the Caribbean or the East Pac, so we're still poised there. This was a law enforcement exercise. It was the Department of War in support of the Department of Justice pulling out an indicted person who ultimately will face justice, and Marco was clear there that this is not something you notify Congress about beforehand, but were there to be more or extensions to this, of course we'll keep Congress involved. They're our partners, and we would do so.
All right, Mr. Secretary, hold there for just a moment. We're going to fit in
He is looking a little bit more fat. Yeah, you're right. That's the important part here. They split it up into chunks to maximize ad revenue.
We're back on the CBS Evening News with one final question tonight with Secretary.
Okay, so that's after this bit then.
We're back. You're watching the CBS Evening News. If you're just joining us, we're in a live conversation with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, just back from Joint Base Andrews, where he met some of the soldiers and sailors involved in that mission in Venezuela. Mr. Secretary, thank you for staying with us. I want to go back to the, to the rationale tonight. Is it about freedom or is it about oil? At the press conference today, President Trump seemed to indicate that both were a factor.
Yeah, Trump shouldn't have talked about that either.
Freedom, security, prosperity. Of course, there are what was done by Venezuela against American oil interests and oil companies is well understood and never should have happened. And President Trump is willing to recapture that. But it's also the security of our hemisphere. If people understood what Venezuela,
it's such a naked indictment of our administration that these fake journalist puff piece questions are being asked to the Secretary of Defense. Like, none of these questions are relevant to the Pentagon. You know, the Pentagon, their involvement is limited to the actual execution of the exercise. Why the fuck would you ever ask the Secretary of Defense why the president wants to kidnap a like, that's just, it's irrelevant. That's State Department business. Or you'd talk to the president, you know, or the Justice Department, right? It's all of them have interchangeable jobs because all of them are doing equally nothing.
Venezuela was trafficking in with other adversaries, weapons they were trafficking, and then of course the drugs and the cartels, the poisoning of the American people, the violence, Tren de Aragua that have been brought to our shores. All three of those combined together in this bold and courageous action from President Trump. He takes nothing off the table. So what happens next will be in the hands of Venezuelans to decide. But ultimately, America will benefit security-wise and with prosperity. And we believe the Venezuelan people can as well.
You know, Mr. Secretary, today at the press conference, you said, and I'm going to say it slowly so I get it right, Maduro effed around and found out. And that's obviously a message not only to Maduro, but to many American adversaries around the world. And it comes on the heels of President Trump saying that U.S. intervention in Iran would be possible if Iran kills protesters. It comes as Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Cuba should possibly be worried tonight. What's next here? What's the message? Who did you have in mind when you said F around and find out globally?
Well, I referred also to the Iranians and their nuclear capabilities. The president said they will never get a nuclear bomb. The Iranians didn't believe it. He acted. He said the same thing about Maduro. He acted. He said the same thing with the Houthis. He acted. Southern border acted. We're going to do something about drugs. He's acting. We're acting with striking drug boats. This is a president of action. And you don't get peace in this dangerous world without strength. So there's been a lot of politicians that want to talk. They want to talk peace. They want to talk diplomacy. They want to talk negotiations. They want to talk globalism, international organizations.
What?
President Trump speaks through action. And so our allies understand that, and they're stepping up, spending more. Our adversaries understand that. So all around the world should take notice. American leadership is back. When he says something matters, it does. And we will take the necessary action with the full weight of the Department of War.
You know, Mr. Secretary, in the aftermath of this successful mission, there were tears of joy in Caracas, in Miami, Venezuelan refugees.
Oh yeah, dude. This propaganda has been so fucking effective. Even people in my chat were saying this shit. The idea that like Venezuelans everywhere were rejoicing. Man, nothing is going to change. Your best case scenario in Venezuela is that things stay the same as they were under Maduro. Okay, that's the best case scenario moving forward.
Thrilled to see Maduro out of power, his capture. You can understand why they've got all that oil, and yet the country itself has skyrocketing prices. His own people have been starving, and yet a meaningful number of Americans would wake up to this news and they'd be ripped back 20 years to another American president, another U.S. intervention. I'm thinking of the war in Iraq, and that led to a significant loss of U.S. treasure and of U.S. blood. Many of the president's own supporters tonight are wondering, how is this time around going to be different, and how is it in the U.S. interest?
Note how every question that is being asked, all of these, by the way, were like run by Hegseth beforehand, right? None of these are like novel questions. He's not facing anything new here. But all of them are setups for Hegseth to address the base and provide answers, you know? No exceptions.
It's the exact opposite. I mean, we spent decades and decades and purchased in blood and got nothing economically in return. And President Trump flips the script. He says through strategic action, we can ensure that we have access to additional wealth and resources, enabling a country to unleash that without having to spend American blood. I mean, this was a bold and audacious move, but it was thought through. It was well orchestrated. Our military had time to set it up. He provided the resources, and then he took that bold stroke. And through it, we flipped that very dynamic. And Americans will benefit. Venezuela has a long history of being a rich and prosperous country. It's been stolen away from its people by horrific leadership. We can do both, help them and help the United States in the Western Hemisphere.
Really interesting stuff to be talking with the Secretary of Defense over. Just finish the thing. It's almost done.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Mr. Secretary, it is very difficult to look into the future, but part of your job is
It's not propaganda. Many Venezuelans are so desperate they're willing to take their chances. It is objectively propaganda. This is exactly what I mean. Like, you can say there are Venezuelans stupid enough to believe this will benefit them. That you can say that. That is true. But to assert that it's not propaganda is ridiculous. Obviously it is. It's a simplified narrative that's being insistently pushed by political actors for political reasons. Like, why would you not, like, what's your definition of propaganda?
to do so. What can you tell us about what the next week in Venezuela is going to look like?
It's going to look like American strength. It's going to look like options for President Trump. It's going to look like protecting American interests and ensuring they're advanced, stopping drugs, ensuring that ultimately the oil resources are, he said it clearly at the podium today, we're going to get American companies in there. We're going to get investment there. These oil depots have been operating at 20% capacity. That's going to change, and we're going to stop the flow.
Well, I appreciate him being straightforward, too. Yeah, you can really tell things are going to change, huh?
People in the United States. It's a good day.
Mr. Secretary, we'll end it on that. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back in a moment with the CBS Evening News.
Truly wonderful stuff. Now, what if we got